So you've decided that you're gonna bite the bullet and book a trip to Orlando in Florida, but you've got questions.
There are so many questions.
Well, don't worry, in this video, we're gonna be answering 10 of your most commonly asked questions about visiting Florida. Okay, so straight in at number one, time difference. Let's talk time differences. There is a time difference between here and Orlando, and that time difference is 5 hours. Florida is going to be 5 hours behind the UK. That is most of the time. There is a short time in the year because of daylight savings that gap closes to just 4 hours, but generally speaking, think 5 hours. So when you get to Orlando, expect to be getting up really early in the morning because your body's going to be telling you it's time to get up, even though it's kind of the middle of the night. This can be advantageous at the beginning of your holiday though, especially if you're going to those theme parks, because it means that you can get out nice and early for rope drop and things like that. So it does have its advantages. The bummer is when you get back home to the UK, you're probably going to be up all night. This one's a big one, and maybe even the reason that you clicked on this video because of the thumbnail. Do you have to have a minimum of 6 months remaining on your passport in order to visit the United States, or in this case, Florida? And the answer to that question is no. As long as your passport is actually valid for the term of your stay, you are good to go. There's actually been an agreement between the United States and the UK for quite some time now. I'll leave a link in the description down below so you can go and check it out for yourself. If you don't believe me, you can read it for yourself and put your mind at rest. Well, while we're talking about entry to the USA, I think it would be remiss of me not to mention ESTHERs. What is an ESTHER? Probably a question that you're asking yourself. ESTHER stands for the Electronic System for Travel Authorization. And again, I am speaking from the point of view of a UK citizen travelling directly to the United States, but basically, you can get an ESTHER, which means that you're allowed to enter the United States, in this case Florida, but up to 90 days at a time for purposes such as holidays. It's basically designed so that you don't have to go ahead and get a full-blown visa to visit the United States. Again, it's an agreement we've had going with the United States for quite some time now. ESTHERs can be completed at any time prior to your visit in the United States, but I would recommend that you get them done as quickly as possible, and they are at a cost of $21 per person in your party. ESTHERs are not a guarantee. They do not have to give us an ESTHER to enter the United States. They can and do occasionally request that we go for interviews in London and things like that to the embassy and get a full-blown tourist visa. If that happens to you, there can be quite a wait, so I would recommend that if you're looking at going to the United States and you've got your passport in hand, get yourself an ESTHER. ESTHERs are valid for up to 2 years. Again, I say up to because if you do change your passport during the time that your ESTHER is valid, you will have to have it renewed. New passport, new ESTHER, thing like that. So an ESTHER gets you into the United States and you have to have one, unless you've got a visa or you're a US national. Next one, this is another common misconception, and it is, do you need an international driver's permit if you're going to be driving a car when you're on holiday in Florida? And the answer is no. Probably. There are a couple of caveats to this. It isn't law. If you look at Florida state law, they don't require that you have an international driver's permit, although some states do. So if you're traveling elsewhere in the United States and you just happen to stumble across this video, check, because they might need one. But generally speaking, as long as you are, again, a UK citizen and your driver's license is in English, because that is important, it does need to be in English, then you should not need an international driver's permit in order to rent a car. Driver's license and payment, that's basically it. So this one comes up a lot, and that is, can you drink the water in Florida? Yeah, totally, you can drink it, it's completely fine. Does it taste disgusting? Yes. They tend to chlorinate the water, and that gives it, to us British people, it gives it a very distinct taste, which is quite unpleasant. I find that if you're staying in somewhere like a villa or something and they've got a fridge that's got like a filtration system on it, you're usually fine. But other than that, you can usually buy like gallon jugs of water from supermarkets for quite a low cost, and I'd recommend just getting some drinking water in if you do like drinking water. Not to mention the fact that obviously you can buy bottles of water at supermarkets, which is going to save you money down the road, especially if you go into the theme parks, because this is a big one. What is the weather like? How do we answer this question? There is no right answer to this question. Florida is one of those places that if you don't like the weather, you should wait 10 minutes because then it could be something completely different. I've been in every month of the year. to Orlando. I've been January to December, and I've been in December many times, sometimes when it's been 90 degrees, other times when it's been 50 degrees. All I would say is that in summer, you can pretty much guarantee hot and probably wet. That being said, I've been in summer before. I once went for 7 weeks, and the entire time it rained once. So generally hot, but maybe take a hoodie just in case, especially if you're going kind of like November through to like February time. So this one gets asked a lot. Can I take food into the USA? Yeah, you totally can take food and stuff into the USA, but no fruits or vegetables, no meat. Generally speaking, things like cheese, sweets, tea. We're in British, you know what it's like. We've got to take some tea bags with us. You're actually fine to do that, believe it or not. But check the CBP website because these things can and do change. Okay, so next one. This is a fun one. Will I see alligators? Yes. I would be more surprised, honestly, if you went to Florida for 2 or 3 weeks and didn't see a gator of some description somewhere. It's just Florida, essentially, for those of you who don't know, before Disney, it was agricultural land and swamp. Those animals didn't go anywhere. They still kind of live there among us, and you will oftentimes just see a turtle crossing the highway, or a gator just strolling down your street, or you'll have a snake in your pool, or be a wild hog. Sandhill cranes, they're fun. Really large birds that just kind of strut around like they own the place, because they basically do. If you go to the theme parks, when you're actually going into the theme parks from like the car park and stuff, they'll have signs in the car park that says, you know, there might be gators and snakes in this area, and they're not kidding. This next one's a little bit of a tricky pickle, and it's should you tip, or who do you tip, I guess. Well, we'll do a 2 for 1. In Florida, the kind of culture is very much a service culture. If you work in a service industry, you oftentimes work with tips. It's very different to here in the UK. It's like where here in the UK, you might give someone a couple of quid if you've had a meal, or you know, you might do 10% say of the bill. It's just like a bit of something. Over there, they really heavily rely on it. So tipping is generally these days between 18 and 25% in like a food service restaurant. And there are lots of other situations where you are expected to tip people. So for example, a bellhop at a hotel, they would be expecting a tip of between $1 and $5 per bag. $5 at a fancy hotel. So if you're staying in like the Four Seasons, great hotel, pretty high end, that bellhop, he or she, they'll be wanting like $5 a bag. So 5 bags, $25 tip. That's just how they are. A lot of the time, a lot of these people work only for tips, or they have a very, very low minimum salary. So basically, yeah, tipping is expected. Okay, well, circling back to a weather question kind of that we answered earlier on, and that is, when is hurricane season? Well, hurricane season's pretty long, and it runs from the 1st of June all the way to the 30th of November. Peak hurricane season is actually, the actual peak day for it is September the 10th, for those of you that are interested. But basically, any time in that window, you should expect to possibly have the chance of tropical storms, hurricanes and things like that. That being said, I don't want to worry anybody unnecessarily about going these times of the year, because once again, I've been going to Florida for like literally 30 years, most of the time during summer holidays and stuff from school, and I've spent lots and lots and lots of time there. The last 4 or 5 years, I've literally spent the entire summer there. We came close to getting stuck in a hurricane in 2019. Hurricane Dorian was due to hit, and we literally were the last flight from Virgin Atlantic out of Orlando Airport before they shut the airport. And in the end, that hurricane actually didn't even hit Central Florida. It kind of diverted and went away. But that's the closest I've ever come to being stuck in one. There are lots of guides actually online for what to do if you ever go in a hurricane, and how you can prepare and stuff. So if I can find one, I'll stick that in the link down below, just to put your mind at rest. And now you know what to expect from the weather. I've actually got this video here that gives you some tips on how to beat the heat and stay cool when you're at Disney World.